The cruise industry just carried 37 million passengers last year. Somebody designed a cruise ship with no smokestack. Airlines worldwide spent $50 billion on technology, and half still can't even get their own systems to talk to each other. $1 billion poured into hospitality startups in 12 months. Amtrak is about to replace rail cars that are older than most of its passengers. And the biggest name in travel research just declared AI isn't the tool anymore. It's becoming the agent. This is the world where travel meets technology and no one's connecting the dots. Until now. Welcome to Cabins to Clouds. This is a weekly show about travel and technology that powers it. I'm Eric Stoltz, and this is episode 1. So who am I and why am I doing this? I've spent the last 24 or so years working in technology. Most of that on the Microsoft ecosystem, engineering cloud architectures, building platforms at enterprise scale. Over that time, I've worked with a number of companies in the travel and transportation space on their transformational journeys, their enterprise modernization journeys. I'm an Azure solution architect, a Google certified cloud professional, and I've even spent years as a Microsoft certified trainer. So the tech side, that's my day job. That's what I do. But here's the other side. Here's the side that I love. I'm a lifelong traveler. Cruise, international trips, road trips across the country. My family and I have really kind of logged countless hours, serious time across airplanes and trains and automobiles, planes, trains, and automobiles. And that's just not a hobby. Our family owns and operates a travel agency. We work day and night understanding all there is to do, all there is to know in this industry. So I'm just not talking about the hospitality industry from the outside. I'm in it. I see it day in and day out. I see the operational side. I see the technology side. I see this technology decisions, the guest experience challenges that are happening every single day. I've spent my entire career building technology platforms. I've spent my life traveling. This show is where those two worlds collide. And honestly, I built the show because I couldn't find it anywhere else. There's great travel content out there. There's even great technical content out there. But almost no one is standing at the intersection of those two parts and explaining how these two massive industries are reshaping each other. This is what's going to go down here every single week. I'm going to break down stories every day and bring it back to you. And within those stories, within the transportation industry, within the industry, there's a lot of stories out there. I'm going to break down the big ones, and then I'm going to break them down into the different segments: cruise, hotel, rail, airline, travel agency, and tourism. But we're not going to talk about what's going on in those industries. We're just not going to talk about the technology. I'm going to bring those two worlds together. This isn't just a news recap. This is more like an intelligence briefing. We can connect the dots between billion-dollar tech investments and your next vacation, between the airline IT architectures and where your flight lands on time, between AI platforms at a hotel for the front desk and the experience you have when you check in. Who is this podcast for, or who is this video for? If you're a traveler who's curious about what happens behind the scenes, this is for you. If you're a hospitality entrepreneur building that next generation guest experience, this is definitely for you. And if you're a tech professional who wants to understand the world at large in one of the most complex industries, pull up a chair. This is episode 1, the pilot, and we're going to get to it. We've got a lot to cover, so let's go. So let's start where I love to start every single time, on the water. So we're going to break down cruising. Did you know that 37 million passengers rode on cruises last year in 2025? CLIA just sent out a report. CLIA is the Cruise Line International Association. Just dropped their 2026 State of the Cruise Industry report, and the headline number is staggering. 37 7.2 million passengers cruised last year. That is a record. That's more people that live in the entire state of Texas. But here's what makes that an interesting thing. It's not the volume. It's not the 37 million cruisers. It's who's cruising. 90% of those passengers say they will intend to cruise again. And a full third of them are under the age of 40. 1/3. That's not just your grandparents' cruise industry anymore. The demographics are shifting to younger cruisers, and that changes everything. How the ships are designed, how they're marketed, how they operate, and the technology that's needed on board of those ships all change. And that creates a new economic footprint. 198 billion in global economic impact. That's a serious industry, and it's growing. So let's talk about this new cruise ship. Okay. So Mary-Ward, one of the world's premier builders in shipbuilding, unveiled a new concept they're calling Project Vision. 88,000 gross tons, 1,856 passengers. And here's the thing. It's fully battery powered. No diesel engine, no LNG batteries. Converse Energy is supplying battery systems. The concept shown, and it shows that ships can cover a route from Barcelona to Rome entirely on battery power. We're talking about 95% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. And this is the part that really kind of gets me about this whole thing. There's no smokestack. When you eliminate a combustion engine from a cruise ship, you don't just save fuel. Yes, that's important, especially right now. But you fundamentally redesign the entire vessel. The architecture changes, the weight distribution changes, the passenger experience changes. The deck opens up. The deck that used to be housing that exhaust system becomes usable space. This is a moment electrification went from theoretical to architecture. And I think that one of the most important stories of this maritime year will be if they can make this battery-powered ship work. So it's going to be one that I'm definitely going to continue to watch as it continues to grow. So let's look at what else is going on in the cruise industry. If you want to really know where the industry is heading, look to Seatrader's Cruise Global. This year, all four major cruise conglomerate CEOs were on stage. And throughout the line, every conversation, two things: AI adoption and destination-driven differentiation. One story that stood out was Windstar's Cruise announced that a partnership with Ideas, one of the big names in revenue management, is deploying an AI-driven dynamic pricing inventory optimization. That's a small luxury line saying, we need machine learning to compete now. No longer is it good enough to just say, we are a luxury line, come with us. We need to understand why we're luxury and where the market is meeting the price. So when every major CEO in the industry is talking about AI, it's no longer a trend. It's no longer something that you have to think about. It's table stakes. The question isn't whether or not you're adopting AI, it's how fast and how deep can you actually bring it into your organization for a technology play. So when I start thinking about hospitality and I start thinking about big things in hospitality, I think that $1 billion in hospitality tech investments over the past 12 months, April 2025 through March 2026, more than $1 billion flowed into hospitality tech startups. 40 companies were funded, and the money wasn't spread evenly. Property management system companies captured 408 million of that. Most of that was led by Muse, which closed a $300 million Series D round. AI-powered guest experience platforms are pulling in another 152 million, with companies like Deval and Canary Technologies and Chatelain leading the way. $1 billion in 1 year. Investors aren't just dabbling in hospitality tech. They're going all in, and they're looking at where the money's going. And where the money's flowing is the operational backbone. Property management systems, AI-powered, that run the day-to-day, the stuff that actually makes a hotel function, that's where the money's going. That tells you something about where the smart money is thinking the real value is in hospitality. So let's talk about Muse. They just launched an AI-powered business intelligence module built directly into their property management system. This isn't a third-party bolt-on or a separate dashboard that you have to log into. This is native analytics embedded directly into platform operations that everyone that's using their product is using day in and day out. And the early results are starting to come in. From what I'm understanding and what I'm researching, the Adria Hotel reported a 22% increase in suite occupancy and 11% revenue uplift after deploying the tool alone. So if you could just start to look at where this is driving the industry. Here's what really stuck with me. The founders of Muse said something in an interview that I think every hotelier needs to hear. Most hotels are making the wrong bets in AI. They're using AI to optimize search rankings or optimize market funnel. And that's good, but where they should really be fundamentally rethinking how they are engaging with guests from the moment they book to the moment they check out. That's the mic drop moment. And that's what he thinks is right. And to me, that's got a lot of pull. When you start thinking about that experience for the guest and you can start bringing AI to look at that, that's where you're really going to see an increase in hotels and the experience that customers are having at those hotels. Personally, that's where I like to think that there's a lot of opportunity in the hotel industry right now for AI enablement. Another place that I think AI can really drive is efficiency. I know, HVAC isn't exactly a headline grabber here, but stay with me. Air Products and Air Intelligence announced a partnership using machine learning to optimize heating, ventilation, air conditioning in hotel properties. The results come back to something to the effect of a 30% or more energy savings. This isn't the unsexy stuff that actually moves the needle. Energy is the top 3 operating expense for every hotel on the planet. If you could cut 30%, you just fundamentally changed your P&L. That is 30% off of your operating costs. You change the margins, you change what's possible, and you did this with software, not by ripping out ducts or replacing a unit. It's by powering AI to enable you to understand how your systems are operating. And once you start getting to that mode of thinking how AI can help you operationalize your hotel, you can start saving even more money. There are many systems within a hotel that could take advantage of the same kind of theories that you're looking at for HVAC. All right, let's hop on the rails. Let's really kind of look at some of the stories that are affecting the railroad industry. So I've kind of put together 3 stories that kind of made a lot of sense to call out. The first story, let's talk about Amtrak. Amtrak just issued the largest fleet procurement in history. They're looking at over 800 new single-level rail cars to serve 14 routes across the national network. And the reason is simple. They're replacing equipment that's approaching 50 years old. 50. Some of the cars that you're riding on today were built when Jimmy Carter was in office. Supplier selection is expected to end around 2027. This is a once-in-a-generation procurement. The U.S. passenger rail system is about to get a hardware refresh that it has not seen, and it has not happened in decades. And whoever wins this contract is going to shape the American rail experience for the next 30 to 40 years. So let's talk about the second story. This one I'm kind of interested in a couple different ways. Battery electric rail cars are going commercial. Electrification isn't just a cruise story. I know we talked about that earlier, but it's happening on the rail too. Intramotive just signed a contract deal with R.J. Cameron for battery electric rail cars. And over in Europe, the DAC4EU consortium, the consortium that is running everything in the EU, is running automated coupling tests that could reshape how freight trains are assembled and operated. Here's why intra-deal matters. Someone is actually buying these, not just testing them, not just running a pilot or commercial railroad, they're actually putting that into their revenue service. That's a very completely different story. Bringing in electric into your revenue producing inventory, this is going to get interesting. The third story that I found really isn't cool. Well, it really kind of depends on how you look at it. It's a policy story. This is a policy that no one's talking about. Okay, I know policy isn't a clickbait type thing, but one could be the single biggest accelerator for new rail corridors in the country. Representative Dina Titus introduced a new bill, Model Party in Permitting Act, which would align the environmental permitting timeline for rail projects to those with highway projects. Right now, it could take so long to get a rail corridor approved. It actually takes longer to do a rail corridor than a highway, even though rail is generally greener and more efficient. If it passes, the rail project could get permits as fast as the highway projects and could change the map literally. We're talking about new corridors that have been stuck in regulatory limbo for more than a decade. This would change the rail industry in this country for a very long time. So this is the segment where we're going to take off. Now it's time to actually get airborne. Let's talk about the airline industry. The real story here is the spend. This week, SITA, the Global Air Transportation IT Organization, released their annual report. And the top line number of this report is record-breaking. Airlines spent $36 billion in IT last year. That's 3.6% of their total revenue. And airports spent about $14.8 billion, 7.3% of their revenue. Combined, that comes out to be around $50.8 billion in IT spend. And great. I love when I see those kind of numbers in IT spend. It kind of keeps me employed. But here's the real problem. 49% of airlines said that data integration is their number one technology barrier. Half of the industry is spending records amount on technology and can't get their own systems to talk to each other. Over 17% are using AI for real-time turnaround monitoring. That's a process for getting the plane from gate arrival to gate departure and flight delays. And they cost they cost the industry globally about $30 billion a year. So let me be clear about something. That's not a technology problem. That's an architectural problem. You can buy the best AI in the world, but if your passenger systems can't talk to your maintenance systems, and the maintenance systems can't talk to the crew scheduling systems, you're just putting a really smart brain on a very broken body. $50 billion in spend, $30 billion in delay costs. The math doesn't math, and it doesn't lie. We really got to understand how these systems can really start to connect around and connect to each other to really start to move the needle on AI and AI in the travel industry. We can't talk about airline travel right now without talking about some of the geopolitical operations that are happening. The ongoing conflict in the Middle East, something that I don't really like to talk about too much, but is sending ripples through the global aviation industry. Route disruptions, insurance premiums are spiking, fuel price uncertainty is truly one of the biggest challenges facing airline industries today. Lufthansa just announced that shutting down CityLine, its regional subsidiary, as part of a broader restructuring partly driven by the pressures that it's causing. Geopolitics is an operational variable now. It's not background noise. It's in the flight planning software. Airlines are building that into their resilience plans. They're making flexible routes and networks that need to be weathering this kind of political storm. Airlines that are locked into rigid hub and spoke models without contingencies are scrambling right now, and it isn't going away anytime soon. So we need to think about that when we're starting to put these things in motion. As we start to look at technology, how can it solve these problems? That's going to be the real winner in any of the industry or any of the interconnections that are happening right now within the travel agent or in the travel industry, excuse me. The next story that I'd like to go over is really, really cool. To me, this is what AI is meant for. I want to end the aviation segment with a story that reminds me why I'm in technology and what it's actually for. Air Europa just deployed AI-guided medical systems across their entire fleet. Here's how it works. When a medical emergency happens at 35,000 feet, the systems guide the cabin crew through the proper response in real time. Step by step, simultaneously, it connects to a doctor, a physician on the ground, via the satellite for a live consultation. And the part that I love, it also includes like a pre-boarding flight assessment to help identify potential risks before the aircraft even leaves the gate. This is AI saving lives. It's not just about saving money. And I think that a lot of people forget that. AI has a lot of power that it can do. When somebody's having a cardiac event over the Atlantic and the nearest hospital is 2 hours away, having a system that can guide a flight attendant through the response with connecting to a real doctor, that's the kind of technology that matters. That's the kind of technology that I really like to look at and really kind of understand. So with that, we're going to jump into the next segment. So let's talk about who's actually selling all of this travel. So there's a real challenge right now, and let's talk about the AI paradox. Here's something that might surprise you. More than 40% of travelers are now using AI in some form during their planning. searching, comparing, building itineraries. So you'd think with all of that AI working, that would make human travel advisors less relevant. But according to major studies, the opposite is happening. The perceived value of human travel advisors is actually increasing. And this is why I kind of think that that's the case. AI is awesome. It's phenomenal at finding options. It can scan 2,000 hotels in seconds. It can rank them by price and rating and location. But what it cannot do is look you in the eye, talk to you on the phone, say, I know you, I know your family, skip that resort. It looks great online, but the beach is actually 25-minute shuttle ride away. Book this one instead. And that judgment, that experience of human interaction, of human knowledge, is really driving the experience. So when I look at AI and whether or not it's destroying the travel agency job and need, I actually think it's changing, but I think that it's changing for the better. It's driving more of that personal engagement and that personal drive of, I'm a travel advisor, I do the research, I've gone to these places, and I'm really driving why they should why you should go to location A versus location B. And I think that the winner in this space will be advisors who can use AI as a superpower, not agencies trying to replace advisors with AI. And I think that that's going to be a big difference that we're going to see this year as we continue to watch the travel agency industry really transform because of what's happening with AI. A prime example of that is Let's Fly. Let's Fly just announced a unified platform covering over 650 airlines, roughly about 1 million hotels, give or take, across more than 140 countries, serving over 1,000 partners. This is the plumbing. This is the distribution and infrastructure that matters. When you can book a flight and a hotel through the same distribution backbone, you reduce that friction for every agent and every OTA downstream. You reduce the errors, you speed up that booking process. You create a data layer that makes personalization possible. This isn't glamorous, but it's foundational. Because when you build that personalized data layer based off the clients and customers that are coming to you for travel, you can have a better understanding of that individual, of that family, and really continue to drive your agency and your business forward. So I'm really interested to see how Let's Fly's platform really does help convert for a lot of travel agents out there that are doing this manually. All right. So let's zoom out. Let's look at the big picture. Let's look at tourism as a whole. This is what I want you to remember from today's episode. Phocuswright, and if you don't know who that is, they are the gold standard in the travel agency industry research. So again, the gold standard in the travel industry research. They just published a piece declaring that 2026 is an inflection point for AI in travel. Here's the distinction that they're making. They're saying that AI isn't just shifting from answering questions, it's actually moving to taking action. They're tracking what's called agentic AI. Systems that don't just respond to your prompts, but act autonomously on your behalf. An AI that doesn't just find a flight for you, it actually books that flight. It doesn't just suggest a hotel, it negotiates a rate for you. It doesn't just list your itinerary, it manages your trip, rebooks when things go wrong, and then adjusts in real time. We're not fully there yet across the industry, or any industry really, But there are massive questions about interoperability and payments and digital identity that still need to be solved. But this is clear that the industry and a lot of industries are moving in this direction. The trajectory is absolute. And companies building for this future right now are going to have a significant first movers advantage. So let's talk about Seatrader's Cruise Global. I talked about them a little bit earlier during the cruise segment, but something also happened during that session. They dedicated an entire opening day to destination travel. An entire day. The research is clear on this. Time ashore directly correlates to economic outcomes for ports, communities, and guest satisfaction for cruise lines. Destinations are waking up to the fact that cruise ships in your port is an economic engine. But if you only get that if you give passengers a compelling reason to spend time and money on shore. I mean, they've got a giant ship that they could take advantage of. Why would they come to your area? Ports that are investing time, energy, and technology in the shoreside experiences and infrastructure are going to win. The ones treating cruise passengers as an afterthought, those ports are going to start to be skipped a lot more. You're starting to see this in major ports like Nassau, where Royal Caribbean has created an entire island destination for their guests because they can. They have the dedication and the information that can actually drive that knowledge. All right, so what's the big takeaway from this week? If there's one running theme through everything that we've talked about today, it's that AI is moving from being a feature to being infrastructure. But here's the catch. And this is all part of it. And it's the part that most people miss. Data integration is the bottleneck, not AI capability. Sitka's report showed that airlines are spending record amounts of money on technology but can't get their own systems to connect. Muse is embedding AI directly into their property management systems because bolt-on AI doesn't work. Focusrite is tracking agentic AI. AI needs to unify data to function. Even Intermotive's battery trains need to integrate monitoring systems so that even the destination can be done. Destination strategy conversion at Seatrade comes down to data. Knowing where your passenger goes, what they're spending, and how long they stay, that's the win. That's the way that you can bring technology into an organization, into travel, and really start to understand it. Operators who do this will be operators who win. Whether you're running an airline, a hotel, a cruise line, or even an RV park. Those are the ones who will build the data layer. Those are the ones that will have first access to it, and then they will build the intelligence on top of that data layer. Get the foundation right, and the intelligence will follow. Get it wrong, and you're spending money on tools you can't use. That's the takeaway here. That's the thread that we'll continue to pull every week as AI continues to evolve, but we'll look at other things in the transportation and travel industries. But let's really dive into all of this. And hey, this was just episode 1 of Cabins to Clouds, the pilot, and thank you for being here, and thank you for being here at its beginning. If this is the kind of content that you are looking at and you are wanting to hear more of, you do want to understand that interaction, that intersection between travel and technology, and have it broke down by somebody who lives on both sides of that world, do me a favor, hit subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. Here's what's coming up. We're going to deep dive into some technologies that are shaping hospitality. We're going to continue to look at the cruise industry and some of the massive ships that are coming out. We're going to look at some of the cruise lines that we haven't talked about yet. We're going to look at tourism from a different angle and how booking travel from a technology point of view has become even easier, but still understanding that is relying on that human element of a travel agent. And even going to be on location at some locations throughout the world to actually get a glimpse at technology and process. So, again, like, subscribe. A new episode will drop every week. I'm Eric Stoltz, and this has been Cabins to Cloud. Now go enjoy your trip.